we talk the same more.
Yeah, exactly.
We're live. About to go share the links.
What's that colorful pillow behind you, Matt? Is that like a?
It's a so it's a product from Printful to help you figure out like what colors are actually going to look like on the sublimation on the print. So for the pillows.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
yeah.
Post the links right fast.
Actually, I should probably close that door. My dog is probably going to come in and out.
Hugo. What's up, Hugo? What's going on, man?
I dropped the link to the YouTube video in the chat, Dionne, if you want to follow along with any of the chat.
Oh, it just disappeared on me. I'll put it. I guess I just click on this thing. Yeah, got it.
Yep.
Got 100 people waiting to join the group.
Oh, it just disappeared on me. I'll put it. I guess I just click on this thing. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, just pause it. Otherwise, we'll get the feedback.
If I mute that, can you still hear me?
I hear you fine. Yeah, as long as it's muted, as long as it's not coming out the speaker, you're good. Pause it. Otherwise, we'll get the feedback.
Yo, so everyone that's joining in, please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up and share it so we can get people on here. And thank you for tuning in, of course.
How happy were you to get that jug back?
I bought another one.
Did you?
I've been hitting it pretty hard. So I had it in and out though when I left your house yesterday.
It's the best. I was jealous. It was like 10:30 at night. I was like, I could go for some in and out. Except I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to lose some weight right now.
But the girl that was with me, she didn't deserve to meet you. I'm just being honest.
You're not a player. You crush a lot, right?
yeah. All right. Oh my God! I keep on pressing. I have these YouTube notifications on my Google Chrome, and it keeps on popping up every time I try to post something. I'll click on the right hand corner, and then it'll pop up like a notification, like a YouTube or something like that. I got to turn that off.
Just disable it.
Yeah,
I hate that stuff.
You need a bigger jug. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and start this. Okay, so we have a special guest. It's Dionne, right?
Yeah, it's Dionne Baker.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So she is killing it in Etsy, and then she's killing it in Shopify. And I really don't have too much background on you with merch.
Oh, see, okay. I'm just starting fresh on merch. So my partner Jay is crushing it on merch, right? And we kind of just work together on Etsy right now, and I'm a Shopify partner and an expert as well. So I'm just kind of well-rounded a little bit.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to start with the last 7 days. We always do the last 7 days. You don't have to share it. Yeah, so here we go. So last 7 days is 242 shirts sold on. We start last 7 days on merch. 242 shirts sold and $852 in royalties.
Ooh.
Your last 7 days are significantly better than mine. Mine's been really slow. We're 126 for 357.38, and like last couple days sucked, but it's normal. Summer, like it's just seasonality. This is what happens on e-commerce. Like you're gonna have slow periods.
Yeah. So my last 7 days, Shopify were about 1,200, and then I had probably like I could actually look up the stat, but Etsy's been really slow for me this last 7 days. Probably like 150, 160 bucks on Etsy. But what happens for me in the summertime is I try to do mostly like my wholesale clients, right? So wholesalers will come in the summer and they'll order all of the stuff, like especially if you kind of repeat stuff. So if you're bringing stuff back from last Christmas that was a good seller, they'll order it early so that they don't have to wait in the queue essentially when you're getting into a busier season. So I have a bunch of wholesale orders that have been coming in the last 7 days. And then really usually summer's a little bit slower for us because I don't do a big release or a launch on our Shopify. For summer, like we'll do some shorts and stuff, but I like the little break because I find we start to ramp up for back to school being kids apparel, right? Like in August again. So I like to kind of have June and July be like wholesale slower and more local people, even with wholesale. And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
As we go through it, the Q4.
Nice. I mean, that's something I think a lot of people don't realize if they've never been in e-commerce before too, is, you know, like there's seasons. There are periods where there's going to be great sales and there's periods where it's going to be really, really slow because people are not spending money on apparel. Everybody expects it to be just, you know, kind of linear, like everything's just going to continue to go up as you add more stuff in, and that's not the way it works.
No, and that's kind of the thing. Like it's even for me, who primarily my Shopify is like a handmade situation, right? It gets challenging as you go into the busier seasons because every year, usually if you're doing your marketing right, that like fourth quarter gets bigger and bigger and bigger every year. Yeah. And when you're actually the person who's like fulfilling all of those products yourself and you have staff kind of helping you, it just, you know, like you never really know what to anticipate. Like I remember last year, Black Friday, outsold any Black Friday that we'd ever had before. And I was like, oh my God, how are we going to get through all of this? But it's, to your point, it's seasonal, right? Like unless of course you're selling something specific. Like I know on Printful, you can do bathing suits and beach towels and stuff now. Sure. So if you're in that market, obviously summer's probably your jam. But for the most of us who are like selling t-shirts and gifts and things like that, it's going to be a little slower in some periods and a lot better in others.
Right. Well, let's get into your background a little bit, Dee. I know that we talked about it in our video, but not everybody's going to have seen that. So how did you get into e-commerce?
So how I actually got into e-commerce was to avoid becoming a workaholic. So I had kind of just started it in marketing at an agency here in Toronto. I worked at McLaren for a little bit and found that I would just like basically the more work that you take on, the more work they're willing to give you, right? And usually you're getting paid the same regardless of how much more productive you are or whatnot. So I kind of switched jobs. I went from McLaren to a little magazine. It's kind of like a thought leader magazine called The Walrus, and then ended up at General Motors of Canada in their marketing department. And by the time I'd left The Walrus and gotten into GM, I knew I didn't want to repeat that same strategy all over again of like going in, just taking on more work, working, you know, 9 to 5 and then 9 to 6 and then 9 to 9 and then becoming a workaholic. So I just literally, I had this idea because one of my girlfriends got pregnant. She was super tattooed. And I went around looking for gifts for her. And it was kind of like I couldn't find something for that edgy tattooed mom. And she registered at a bunch of like local Toronto shops up here. And when I would go, I would get kind of like this hoity-toity snotty attitude about, oh, you're looking for something for a tattooed parent? Like it wasn't the cool thing to do yet, right? Mm-hmm. And so it made me a little bit like irrational and like angry because I was like, just because somebody has tattoos doesn't mean they're going to be a bad mom. You know what I mean? And so I couldn't find what I was looking for. No one really wanted to help me. And I just got mad and started like looking other places. So I started importing things from, you know, Australia and like the UK until I created this basket. So I show up to the shower with this basket and pretty much like half the shower comes up to me after and is like, I'm going to take my gift back and I need you to make me one of those baskets. Like, I don't care what it costs, but like that stuff's awesome. So for me, it actually started out as like gift baskets for showers, right? And then as the years went on, it kind of morphed into e-commerce in that people didn't really need that like full gift basket experience after their kids were 2 and 3 and 5. They wanted 1 or 2 shirts that were cool that like, you know, they couldn't find anywhere else kind of thing. So that led me to actually develop my first website, which I self-developed. I taught myself how to code. It was horrible. It was god awful. And it took me forever because I had no frigging clue what I was doing. But like, there wasn't a Shopify or whatever,
Right.
Etsy and stuff, but there wasn't like this easy Wix drag and drop kind of builder in there yet. And then, you know, when there was, made the switch over to Shopify and everything got a lot better, right? So that's kind of how I jumped into e-commerce. But it really, I think, just started out for me as a way of not getting burnt out by like basically selling my soul to the corporate job I was working at the time.
Yeah. And then also to go back on coding, like, man, coding it's so hectic. Like you'll be in the same spot for like 45 minutes. You're like, damn, I was just here. Like, here I got to go back and do it again because it didn't work out. And
yeah, trust me, I was so like, I don't know, way back in the day, it was called Zen Cart. And it was like supposed to be an out of the box experience. It was like the primitive Shopify, except you had to code the whole front end yourself. And basically the back end worked on this thing called Zen Cart, right? And oh my God, the hours and hours and like probably hair that just came out of my head from being like, oh my God, I can't figure this out. You know what I mean? But it was worth it because like I learned, I got my first sales, and the cool experience that I had, which I think is maybe not the same experience that a lot of people had, is when I started, because I started earlier than like pretty much anybody else I knew. Like everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, oh, you have a website? Like, what do you do on that? You know what I mean? But the cool thing for me was because I did start earlier and I had already done a bunch of keyword research and SEO research, I was able to rank really quickly for the terms that I was using on my products, right? So really, really quickly, like within the first 3 or 4 weeks, I was getting orders already organically just from search from like, you know, Google and Bing and Yahoo. And I was like, I don't even know how these people are finding us because we didn't have a Facebook page or anything. And I was learning, right? Like, so I had no clue really what I was doing. I was just applying the strategies I'd been reading about in terms of SEO. And then of course, like as I moved over to Shopify, I was able to put more of my marketing expertise in there, right? Like with email campaigns, and I had some of my first customers that I could actually talk to, and, you know, then Facebook ads and all that other stuff. But I started out way before all of that was even a thing. So.
Yeah. Okay, now let's say with your Shopify store, is it more of a general store or more of a niche store?
So ours is definitely like a niche specific store. So like it's for edgy, tattooed parents, people who, I call them like diverse people who are kind of accepting of other people. So it's not the judgmental parent, it's not the helicopter mom, it's kind of like the person that you'd expect to have kids, but also be a tattoo artist, or also play in a band, or also still be a professional skateboarder or something like that, right? Like that's basically my target audience. So it's very niche. And that's basically what we became known for. We were one of the first on the market that had the tattoo sleeve onesies for kids, right? And so we had 13 sets of sleeves designed and printed, like sublimated, and then we started just sewing them into onesies for kids. And then like all of a sudden, that's what everyone came to us for. And then I think I was saying this before in the last video, things evolve over time, right? So like it started out with these gift baskets where I was largely kind of reselling other people's products, moved into, I created my own product in these tattoo sleeve onesies, then moved into like printing on shirts. And allowing people to choose whether you wanted the sleeves or not, or whether you wanted the sleeves separate for older kids so that they could wear them with multiple shirts, not just ours, right? So like it kind of grows and evolves as you really get to know your audience and you start listening to what they're telling you they want, right?
Okay, now with how would you say like why not a general store? Why a niche store? Can you like kind of?
So I think it's just a matter of preference. Like at the time that I started, there weren't very many general stores that were doing it well. And I could kind of recognize that. But for me, because of it was kind of like an organic process, like I brought this basket to a shower, everyone liked what was in the basket, and it kind of grew from there. And I knew that meant there was an underserved market. Yeah. That became a really clear strategy for me. Like I find if you can find an underserved market in the marketplace, it's almost like instant success as long as your products and your customer service are good, because people are looking for something that they're just not finding anywhere else, right? Or that if they are finding somewhere else, it's kind of sketchy. Like maybe they're going to order from a China website and they don't know if it's actually going to show up, or, you know what I mean? So if you can kind of build your brand around it, then the people will come, in a sense, right? Like as long as your branding hits the things that they're interested in. And so for me specifically, I chose not to do the general store for that specific purpose. Like it did evolve into like, we now have adult shirts and like matching, you know, mommy and me, daddy and me kind of sets and sibling sets and things like that. But it made a lot more sense to focus on the niche and focus on what I was good at. Like I'm good at looking at, I guess, a subset of people and going, what kind of unites all of these people and where are they underserved, that gap analysis. But that's not to say that you can't obviously have success with a general store. There are some stores out there crushing it that are general stores, but I kind of mentioned in the last video we did where you have to be very specific about how you do that, right? So if you're going to have a general store, it can't just be like you're importing every single product from Oberlo or AliExpress and then just like running ads to see what works and then just hoping that, you know, you'll get a bunch of customers. Essentially, it has to be a cohesive experience. So some of the stores that do it well will be like a gentleman's store, right? And it's a general store. You can get shavers there, t-shirts, sunglasses, earphones, watches, shoes, whatever. But it's all for like the upper scale gentleman, right? So it's all branded that way. The pictures are really beautiful. You know, the experience on the website and the customer service matches what people think they're going to get once they land on the page. Everything looks good. Nothing looks sketchy. You know what I mean? And I feel like you have to put some thought into how you're going to do that general store if you're going to have that level of success, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that that I specifically wanted to talk to you and I was excited about this conversation, Dionne, was your background in marketing, right? Like, and where you approach how you want to actually do a store or do a brand, right? Because your brain works kind of similar to mine. Like, you start thinking about that stuff before you actually even start doing anything within the shop. You're figuring all of that stuff out prior, figuring out the brand, figuring out who your target audience is. And I think that's something that a lot of our audience struggles with because on Merch by Amazon, it is a general store, right? Amazon is a gigantic general store. You don't have to think about brand. You're just literally, you're creating as much stuff as you can to serve niches that might look for it on that store, but not specifically creating a brand around that niche. Exactly. So can you talk a little bit about your process when you're starting out with a new store? Like, how do you come up with what your brand is going to be and decide like how you figure out what your target niche is going to be and target audience?
Absolutely. So like, generally speaking, if I were to start with something brand new, the first basic step for me is going and seeing what's already on the market. So like what I was saying before about gap analysis, like if I'm looking at what's on the market, I'm kind of trying to either figure out where I can fit and do something better or where there's a little bit of a market that's underserved. So like, for instance, right now, if I were to just throw out some stuff, I'd say there's a shit ton of people out there doing the ketogenic diet, okay? And the people on keto are all about keto. So they're wearing their keto shirts to the gym. They're wearing their keto shirts, you know, everywhere. They're telling everyone about it. They're losing 30, 40, 50 pounds in, you know, like 3-6 months. And they look really awesome. And people want to know what's going on. So that if I'm going to start making shirts for the gym rats that go to keto, my first step is proving if that's even a market that is going to be worthwhile, right? So I'm just going to start typing in, you know, forums for keto, like whether it's Reddit, whether it's Facebook, looking at shirts that are workout shirts, seeing how many other shirts are out there, you know, kind of just starting to do a little bit of, I guess, market research to see where we are in the playing field. And then from there, once I've kind of thought, okay, so this market's either underserved or I can do something better or my designs look better than that person's or what's out there. From there, the next step is kind of building what I call the ideal customer, right? So like figuring out, okay, so who is it that I'm exactly targeting? Like, what does this person like? What don't they like? What are they eating? What kind of music are they listening to? You know, where did they go to school? What kind of education did they have? Are they social people? Are they introverts or extroverts? And you kind of just dig in. And I kind of almost look at it like creating the story of the first customer that you're going to get through the door, right? Because like a lot of people have problems conceptualizing this ideal customer or this like client avatar. But I look at it like if you were going to tell somebody else who the first customer is that's going to walk in your door and you're going to make that person a three-dimensional person, right? You're going to have to know a lot about them. Like what makes them laugh? How many times are they working out a week? You know, are they a bro or are they like more prim and proper? You know, what level of education do they have? Where do they live? What kinds of places do they hang out? And those are the kinds of things that you're kind of writing out in your ideal customer avatar. And then for my personal brands, I take it one step forward. And I go, okay, so now I know who this person is. Now let me figure out where my brand could fit into their little cycle, their journey. So whether it's like they're in a pain point of maybe they weigh 350 pounds, okay? And they've just started keto, like just continuing along with this keto example, right? And they maybe in the first couple of weeks, like dropped 12 pounds and they're feeling excited. And now like maybe they're in a different shirt size. They want to buy something that keeps them motivated. So maybe they're going to buy the shirt size they're in now and the next one down, right? So I start looking at things like that and going, okay, so where do I fit? I fit in their weight loss journey. I fit in when they're talking to other people about what they're doing. And you can kind of start to see where you're going to bundle your products in order to make the most sense to that specific person, right? In addition to that, I usually start, like after I've kind of narrowed down my target, and it sounds like a lot more work than it is. Like you can get, honestly, a worksheet, right? And like you just spend even half an hour working through this worksheet, just really applying some thought to it and creating like a character in a story almost, right? And then you've got this solid idea of who this person is, what makes them laugh, what they're not going to be into, whether they're suspicious of online, whether they're, you know, more tech savvy or whatnot. And it just kind of blossoms or expands out from there. Because then you can start, like if you go, again, keeping the example of keto, you can go onto the Keto Gains website. You can find that group on Reddit. And you can start interacting with people to kind of prove whether your customer avatar is actually going to hold its weight or not, right? Like you actually know who these people are, right? And then once you've got a good basis for that, it's you know, coming up with designs that they're going to think are funny, learning their lingo in a sense, you know what I mean? And putting those things out there in the marketplace. And usually like if you hit your customer avatar properly, your ideal customer, like it's quicker success in terms of when you show people something, they're like, oh, that's fucking hilarious. I'm going to buy that now, you know? So the brand kind of evolves for me from the very beginning, from the person that I'm making it for, right? Like it evolves from this customer avatar worksheet where like, if obviously, you know, all of the people that were doing keto were like, you know, English ladies with their tea and crumpets and super pop, like proper, I'm obviously not going to be throwing like keto fucking gains on a shirt and expecting that to sell, right? Like I'm going to make prettier, maybe frillier, cooler, like trendy shirts for that specific customer avatar. But if this is all like, you know, guys who are crushing it at the gym and who are eating better and like there's a thing on the keto subreddits that they're called face gains, right? So like if you lose 30 pounds, your face looks different, right? And they're all like posting their face gains. You know what I mean? Like just learning their lingo and kind of going, okay, these people, they like to laugh. They're a little sarcastic sometimes. You know, they're wearing what they're doing on their sleeves, so they're extroverted. It kind of just influences how you talk to people, what your brand looks like, you know, even sometimes the colors that you use and the products that you're just kind of offering up, right?
Right. I mean, that goes back to like when you're designing your Shopify store or you're designing the look that you want to have your Etsy store. So like your banner and all the things that matter, like in terms of shopper experience, all of that stuff goes into it too, right? Like, because you're looking at it from your ideal customer's perspective. Absolutely. It's something that they would want to look at and want to buy at and feel like they're a part of, that they connect with.
Yeah. Or even if it's not that they're there yet, like another key, like just off the top of my head, another key for the keto people or the people who are on the fence for keto, but they want to start and they want to feel like they're part of the community, right? Yeah. So like you're going to grab those people with something that's funny or whatever that kind of they can wear around and say like, I'm part of this too, like me too, right? Because I really feel like when you can create those experiences, like me too is honestly probably the strongest, I guess, sentence in the English language. Like when people feel included and supported, your brand easily grows, right? Like when they feel like they can see themselves in what you're doing, you don't really have to work that hard on your marketing except for like exposure, right? Like you're not working that hard to get the customers on your website coming because, you know, one person says something, word of mouth kind of spreads like wildfire. You put some things up on social media, people are liking and sharing, and it kind of just hit the mark. But it all starts with knowing who your target is, right? Like if you haven't spent the time actually going through and really figuring out like the psychology of these people, where are they in their lives? What do they want? What pain point is my product like filling for them? Is it aspirational? Is it making them feel good? You know what I mean? Is it helping them kind of identify with a group that they want to be identified with? You know, where is that pain point and how does my product fill that gap? When you can answer that question because you've spent the time getting to know who that person is, it's way faster and way easier for your success, right? Like it influences what colors you're using, what fonts, the language even, like how you're talking to these people, the kinds of things you're sharing on your social media. And I always say, like, so it's an unpopular opinion, but I always say that like most brands use social media incorrectly, right? Like most brands, after they've got the bare bones of their stores set up. So let's say you're starting it fresh and you don't have any customers yet, and you've just thrown up a Shopify or an Etsy, and you're trying to get out there and get in with your target customer. What most people just start doing is throwing up their products and being like, hey, did you see this? Did you see this? Did you see this? And they're using their social media to do that instead of using their social media to collect a bunch of like-minded people. So again, if we're staying on the keto example, just for like consistency here, you know, if I'm going to start a new brand that's around people on this ketogenic diet, and I'm targeting a specific person, I'm targeting, you know, the sarcastic, funny person who maybe is like morbidly obese, right? And looking to trim down, I'm going to start posting other videos. I'm starting to curate my content around like why keto is good. Look at what this person's doing. Have you been on this Reddit sub thing and seen these face gains? I might even make a meme with, you know, somebody's permission on face gains to make it funny. You know what I mean? And as you're sharing those things out, you're growing an audience of people who you already know are in your target group, right? Like you're not just throwing up a product and being like, hey, buy this thing right now, buy it right now. Did you see it? You know what I mean? You're kind of establishing some trust. You're showing your personality. You're showing that you get them as a whole. And that's what usually grows brands, right? Like that's what grows the community support around your Facebook page or whatever. And truthfully, that's how I grew my Facebook page. Like I've got 71,000 people on my Facebook page, 17,000 people on my Instagram. And like we run very few ads. Like in fact, when I run ads, I don't even run it to those audiences. Right. I run it to lookalike audiences and to audiences I'm using to target to get them over to my Facebook page, right? So just an interesting.
So that's a nice segue into like the actual marketing portion of your shop, right? So when you're starting your shop out, are you starting it congruently with this Facebook page and everything else? Are you building an audience first and then building a shop for it? Go ahead.
Oh, so like it kind of depends. For Little Misfits, obviously, I started my shop first and then built the audience around it. I wouldn't always suggest doing it that way. Like at the time, I was fully employed somewhere else, so I had a bunch of disposable income to kind of throw at it. And where I was learning, you know, I was making a bunch of mistakes, essentially, right? So that being said, you know, knowing what I know now, I would do what's called a minimum viable product, right? Like I would hit my customer avatar. I would throw up a store that maybe had 10 products to start. And then I would start looking for the community with those products to basically validate my idea before I spent a lot of time really fleshing out that store and growing it from 10 products to 20 to 100 to 1,000, right? But yeah, sometimes it's congruent. Other times I've seen tons of shops do this where literally they just were into a specific niche, right? They were into it themselves. Maybe they're gym rats. Maybe they're, I don't know, essential oil people. This is a perfect example. Okay. Essential oil people. Perfect example. So you'll get all these people who are into the essential oils and they're like using them and they're like looking stuff up online about like what home remedy can I make for my cold, or like, you know, I'm anxious and I want to calm down, and they're looking all over the place. And then they just start kind of posting, or they create a Facebook page so that they can collect other people that are into essential oils, and they can all just share recipes and talk about their essential oils and like and stuff, you know. And, and really, then all of a sudden they'll switch and they'll start selling essential oils, or they'll start selling accessories for essential oils, right? So they'll start selling like these leather bracelets where you can drip your oils on, and they'll start like posting little, okay, this is my own blend of essential oils that are meant for energy or whatever else. But it's because they've already kind of established some trust with the community that they spent a little bit of time nurturing. And when it doesn't actually take a long time. If you're immersed in your own niche or niche, you know, you can literally, like, because you already know everything about it, right? Like, you can literally just kind of start collecting people and being like, okay, what do you do for this? What do I do for this? You know, and having those conversations. And before you know it, you've got a little tiny community who's then going to be sharing your stuff outward, because they want everybody to know about the like wonderful like benefits of essential oil, and it's all natural, and you can clean your house with it, and you can put it on your face. And, you know what I mean?
But I mean, that's the beauty of an audience, right? Like, so like when you build it that way, it's organic, it's not forced. You're not dumping offers onto them constantly. And so you're going to have that virality when something actually comes out and everybody in the audience is behind it and they're into it. They're going to share it versus, you know, offer. And then they tune it out.
Well, absolutely. And like I've been working with one client who does exhausts for cars, specific cars, actually, for Audi S4s. Okay. And he was all paranoid. Like, he'd been working on this exhaust. He got it, you know, manufactured here in Canada, and then like put it on his car and like was working it out and just posting videos in like an Audi group, right? Like just a group of people who own these Audi S4s. And he said to me, I know nothing about digital sales. I know nothing about anything, but I want to like literally just create a website to offer these exhausts, right? So we put together a website, like, you know, he went back into the group, and I said, we'll do it as a soft launch, right? Just to see how many people are interested. And literally in his first week, we did it as a pre-order. He made $14,000 in sales, right? Like, the exhaust was a higher end product, right? Like $1,250 a piece, but to make like $14,000 in a week for a product that he'd only actually like had one prototype of, that's pretty amazing. Yeah. Right. And it was because he'd spent the time in these groups kind of nurturing his relationships with people, so that by the time there was a product, you know, he'd spent the time posting videos in these groups being like, do you guys like the sound of this baffle? Do you like how this looks? You know, what do you think of all chrome? Do you want a black tip? And so the people who were responding were feeling like they were getting to build the product with him. And that's what kind of created that really quick and instant success. So now, of course, it was a pre-launch, so we're working through some things. Like, the manufacturer said they could do black tips, but then couldn't. So he's working through some of those kinks, but in the meantime, like, he just went out with his minimum viable product, which was a prototype that he had installed in his own vehicle, right? And was able to make like a huge amount of money off of that in a week, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. And it's something he's probably into anyways. He's into cars, I'm sure. Like, it all kind of ties in together. And not that you necessarily have to be into it to sell to somebody, but it's just having the mentality. Like, you have to be able to buy into it and understand what your customer wants. Absolutely. So, like, if you were starting out today, where would you start to build your audience? Would you start it for, you know, e-commerce? Would you start on Facebook, or would you start on Instagram? And I realize it may depend on what you're selling. But say for like shirts or apparel, like, where would you start first?
For shirts and apparel, I would definitely start on Facebook, but I wouldn't start with a Facebook page like everybody else does. Yep. What I would do is I would start in Facebook groups for the specific niche or niche that I'm targeting, right? So if it's like people who are fit moms, or, you know, whatever it was that I was trying to target, like political shirts even, that's a huge one right now, right? I would just start adding myself to a bunch of these groups, whether it was left-leaning, right-leaning, bipartisan, whatever. And I would start there, building relationships with people. And then, you know, I would pick groups specifically, because there's a ton of groups that like get really touchy about you putting products and things like that. But there's a ton of groups that don't, honestly, as long as the product actually like fosters a conversation, they don't care, you know? So I would kind of start picking those groups, and that would be where I essentially started building my audience. So I'd still have the Facebook page. I just wouldn't have put as much effort into amassing the kind of audience that I have currently on my Facebook page. I would start one-on-one in these groups, kind of just posting things, adding to the conversations, maybe making memes out of shirts that are in my shop. You know what I mean? Just kind of like warming people up to these things. And then usually what happens, like I just did this with the Black Panther series, okay? So it's all trademark stuff, but I said, okay, what can we do? So like in the little, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, have you?
Yeah.
Black Panther? No, the Marvel movie, yeah. So they had a weird font that was just like specifically for that movie. And then of course, as soon as the movie came out, the font was like available for purchase, commercial use, and whatever else. So I just started putting funny sayings that like I knew that target audience would like or get, right? Or like kind of play on words from the movie, but not quite exact phrases that were used in the movie. You know what I mean? Right. And I was hanging out in one of the groups that I just hang out in, and I threw up a meme with this shirt, and people were like, "Where did you get that? Where's that shirt?" And I was like, "Oh, well, here, it's in my shop." And then I got a bunch of sales from that. You know what I mean? But it's like when you're already kind of in the group and you're not instantly trying to sell people stuff, it just ups your trust factor, right? Like you're saying, "I'm one of you. I get you. I feel what you're going through," or like, you know, "I get your sense of humor." You feel like one of the pack. It's like when you see those like memes with like dog, cat, and the cat's just like chilling in between all the dogs. And they're like, nobody's noticed yet. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. That's how you have to think about it. Like you're assuming the role of whatever niche you're targeting.
Yeah, and also too, that's an easy way to kind of build up like your email list too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. That's very interesting. Guys, don't do that on merch. Do not do that on merch, okay? Only like on Etsy or Shopify, okay? That's only. No, I guarantee you're going to have like 20, 30 people.
Not at all.
Okay. We're going to have like 20 or 30 people go out and do that after they heard that. Like, don't do that on merch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
when you're building a brand specifically, these kinds of things are important. When you're on merch, and I would even argue sometimes on Etsy, like I am partial to building a niche brand on Etsy. Because I just feel like it's easier to be successful out of the gate and it's a lot less work for you. Like you could start a niche brand with 30 products, whereas if you're building a general store on Etsy, like you're probably going to need 100, 200, 300 products to get started to start seeing those revenues increase, right? So that's why I'm a little bit more partial to the niches. But that being said, like, even if you were to build a general store on Etsy, this wouldn't necessarily be the strategy that I would tell you to take, right? Like it's if you're looking to build a brand around a specific set of products that you're bringing into the marketplace, then yes, it makes sense to spend that time getting to know the potential customers and the people in that niche, right?
Yeah. I gotta step away for 1 second, guys. I'll be right back.
No worries.
Okay. So as far as like, okay, so you would recommend going into Facebook groups, then like, or like Facebook groups, what do you recommend after that? Like, what's your next approach?
So I would say you have a Facebook page, and then you're going into these Facebook groups and you're talking to people. And then like, I would just be transparent. That's my biggest thing. Like when you're going into these Facebook groups and you're talking to people, you're kind of using a little bit of market research, but you're also using it to try and make sure, like to validate the work you've already done to make sure that your customer avatar is correct. And then I like literally just start inviting people to like my page, or I share something in the group from my page, right? Like I copy the link in, and you'll see people start to filter over because it's still within their interest set.
Yeah.
Right? So once, like usually I use that strategy until I've got about 100 or 200 people following me on Facebook. And then I'm still kind of active in the group, but a little bit less active in those groups that I'm kind of targeting. And I'm just pushing more stuff on Facebook. Sometimes sharing freebies, like that was a big thing that kind of helped grow my Shopify and really gets us still a ton of views on Pinterest. It's like uploading a freebie to Pinterest, or, you know, putting it on your Facebook page, like that's a freebie of something of interest to them. So like say if we're staying on the keto thing, you know, 10 keto recipes that take 10 minutes. Okay. That's a freebie, but you have to enter your email in order to get it. And then when they enter their email and they get that 10 like free recipes, maybe there's a little 10% offer in my store for like a really cool keto shirt. Or if you lost 30 pounds, you know, there's one thing on the keto groups. It's called Wonderland, right? So if you've lost 100 pounds, you hit Wonderland. Or if you've, you know, set a goal weight and you hit that, it's Wonderland. But it's not WONDERLAND. It's ONDER, right? And so, you know, maybe it's like you're offering them something that would be interesting to them.
Yeah.
And it also kind of fits into the same general interest space. But it's not like that, oh, come to my page and all you see are products on my page and it's very apparent that I'm trying to sell you something, right? Like it's more like building a relationship.
For sure, I understand you. So basically what you're doing is just like very smart marketing, but it's like it's free too at the same time. If you really think about it. It takes more work, of course, but it's free.
Well, and that's kind of the thing. Like it takes more work in the beginning, but like especially when before you get to like around 1,000 or 2,500 people on your Facebook page, it's worthwhile to do that work because very quickly you start to see what people want and what people don't want. Right. And so like once you kind of know, okay, so if I bundle an offer for 15% off a shirt with free 10 recipes, weirdly, that offer like goes bing, bing, bing versus me just, you know, like going on and talking about the benefits of keto or like making an infographic or something like that. That's also free information, but it's not really driving people back to my store or my blog or my website or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not really as helpful, right? Like you want to be collecting people's email addresses so that you can be continuing those conversations. And even with email marketing, like I don't say, generally speaking, like depending on the strategy you're using, like some people use SEO as the strategy to build their website. They don't even focus on Facebook or Instagram. That's not even a thing that they think about. They just start like really trying to rank for certain keywords. They get a little budget going on, you know, Google AdWords, start playing around. And those are the people who've done a lot of research, who, you know, are spending a lot of time to make sure that their targeting is right. But they don't even focus on Facebook or Etsy until they have, Facebook or Instagram, until they have a few customers in the hopper. And then they can upload those customers into Facebook and create a lookalike audience to find more customers just like them, right? So like there's a variety of different strategies that you can use. And I always say, no one strategy is going to be a silver bullet for every single business. Like what works in my business doesn't necessarily work in a different niche or even the same niche, but a different style, right, of business. You want to just really kind of look at what I say, 3 constraints. How much time do you have to be applying to this? Right? Like if you're working a full-time job and this is your first thing and you're really wanting to learn more, yeah, you've got some time to apply to this to try and grow something more slowly or more organically. If not, you know, maybe you want to go buy a course. Maybe you want to go spend all your time learning about SEO or Facebook ads or Google ads and, you know, basically targeting. And then you're going to start just testing products, right? To see, okay, like what price point, what design, and then like rinse and repeat that strategy, right? But long term, I always say brands have more staying power. That's really what it comes down to. Like the general stores are constantly having to refilter through different products, test new products, get a new winner, right? Because things are only popular for so long. But with a brand, people really start to identify with what that brand values and what that brand stands for and the relationship that they've built, like what that brand says about them as a human being, because everybody understands the values of the brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, you're not really having to work as hard to continue making products that people really like because you're immersed in it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Let's see if you guys. Okay, let's get the questions in from the audience. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Yeah, so there's a lot of good information. I'm pretty sure a lot of that people won't understand it like right off the bat. Yeah, no, because it's overload.
Watch again.
Yeah, you already know it's overload because like the first time like you doing it, you gotta at least fail like with this process. You gotta fail a lot. I'm be honest with you guys. It's not easy. It's hard, and it takes time to understand what you're doing because like, okay, like when you're doing merch by Amazon, like they already have that, like, the customer's trust already. So it's a whole different ballgame. So it's easy. You can throw a design out there and it'll make a sale like right away. Now on here, you have to gain the customer's trust. You have to make them feel comfortable on the website. There's a lot of things you have to do. So like social proof is like a big thing too as well. A lot. There's a lot.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, I don't even think usually they say, okay, so way back in the day when I was like actually studying marketing, like studying it, they would say it takes a person 16 times of seeing your brand before you get brand recognition. Okay. Now this was back before there was Facebook and back before there was Instagram and back before there were all of these niche groups on Facebook where you could just go and be like, this is what I did. I started this really cool thing for people just like us. What do you think? Right. And just ask for feedback. And that's one of the key strategies that I use. But like way back then, they said it would take about 13 to 16 times of somebody seeing your brand like positioned around the world or around their world, right? Before they'd have some brand recognition of like, oh, that looks cool. That could be for me kind of thing. Or just even recognition of that is a brand. Okay. Yeah. Now you add in, you know, the influence of social media and like that has completely turned on its head how many times people need to see something, because now you have these influencers, you have these giant audiences, and you have Facebook ads that aren't that expensive that you can run to get them in front of people you're targeting. But truthfully, I feel like there still isn't a lot of well-defined knowledge out there. Like basically what I found a lot during my learning curve, or like even now, like I still like to learn about new things that they're happening and like test and play with them. And what I find is you'll get a lot of these gurus who are like, oh, look at my yacht, look at my mansion, look at my Lambo, and here's my course for $1,000. And then you take the course and you haven't actually learned how they did any of that. You know what I mean? You haven't learned how they actually like grew a brand, you know, how they did their Facebook ads, how they figured out what products to sell. They're not giving you the secret sauce because they don't actually know, right? They just they're people who got lucky, who hit a niche on the head, maybe because they were part of that niche and I thought, oh, hey, like I would like this. My friends like this. Maybe the rest of the world would like this. And then they became super successful. They were trying to like cash in on teaching you how to do the same thing, but you're not getting the knowledge, right? So I say it is a lot of trial and error. Like you are going to have to like tinker around and play around, but it doesn't necessarily always have to equate to a lot of wasted time and money, right? Like if you literally just spend your time filling out a customer avatar worksheet, like there's tons of them free, type that into Google, ideal customer worksheet, customer avatar worksheet, you'll get a million results that pop up. You spend some time really just filling that in and then in your head thinking hard, like even half an hour about what is it that this person is struggling with? Why would this product make this person smile? Why would this person want this over that over there? Like just answering those questions for yourself, then you've got a good starting place and it cuts your wasted time and energy and frustration down because you can test that against any group that person hangs out in. Right, to see if you've got it right or wrong. And one of my favorite things to do is just ask for the feedback. Be like, guys, I'm this. So like, for instance, I just did the Myers-Briggs personality test, okay? So I'm an ENTJ. I'm sure you have no idea what that means. Super not important. But apparently ENTJs are only like 2% of the population, okay? So then I'm like, I go and I find a group on Facebook and it's all ENTJ females. And there's about 20,000 women in that group. So instantly I go in there and I'm like, I had a meme, like I made a little design about ENTJs that I feel like kind of fits my personality. It said ENTJ, 0 fucks given, right? And they were all like, oh my God, where's this shirt? Where did you get that? And I was like I was just fucking around. I made one for myself. Like, do you guys like them? You know what I mean? But it was because they could all identify, because that's something that people say about ENTJ personalities. So when you're thinking about your targeting or you're thinking about your customer avatars, you're thinking, what is something that only somebody in that group would get? It's like keto people, the face gains. If I were to go into a gym and be like, oh, you got face gains, people would be like, that bitch is crazy. Like, what is she talking about face gains? Like, what's a face gain? You know what I mean? But if I go into a keto group, or like somebody's doing keto in the gym and I'm like, oh, you got face gains. They're like, yeah, high five, because they know what I'm talking about, right? It's like you're finding those little nuggets that only people in your niche or in your avatar group would get, and then you're just giving products that kind of exploit those things, or not exploit, that's a bad word, but like that fill that gap, right? That aren't out there in the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're serving a need right there, right? Like, and they might not even know the need exists.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like one of my favorite sites to always talk about is like literally Metal Marvels. So if you type in metalmarvels.com, it's one of my favorite sites to talk about because 2 years ago, it was a completely different brand. It was so they make these bangles that have swear words on them. Okay. And she started out with these affirmation bangles, and they would say things like peace, love, and light, and like yoga all day. But like she was purple hair, kind of like tattooed, zero fucks given attitude. And here she is selling these like, woohoo, like, you know what I mean, kind of products. And her website's all like pretty and frilly and whatever. So then she started working with a coach who was like, what are you doing? Like your website's pretty and the products look nice and whatever, but like there's this giant mismatch between like who you are as a human being and like what you want to be putting out there in the universe in terms of products and like what you're actually doing. And the minute she changed it and she started putting things on bangles that like, you know, affirmation people wouldn't really totally be into necessarily, her brand just blew up. Like it went from maybe like, I think it was like 6,000 or 8,000 followers on Instagram to I think now she's got 60-something thousand followers. She's making $50,000 a month in sales or more. I know I watched her do her Black Friday sale, and in one day her goal was $50,000 for Black Friday that year, and she surpassed it. Mm-hmm. And it was all about the marketing, like finding this group of women who are more like me, who, you know, we like to curse a lot or a little or like a lot. and you're looking like we didn't even know we wanted that product. Like if you would have asked me 2 years ago, would I have a collection of 16 bangles that have swear words on them with like that are gold and like rose gold and silver? I would have been like, I don't know, probably not. But as soon as that product came out, I was like, oh yes, there's one that says bitch please. Yep. Style, grace, resting bitch face. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, just give me all the bangles, right? But I didn't even know I wanted that product. And it was just her personality coming out inside of the product and then finding other people that resonated with the vulnerability of that and resonated with the message that she was just kind of putting out to the world, right? So it's one of my favorite examples because, like I said, and she'll even admit it, she runs a podcast right now. It's like, I think it's called Boss as Fuck. But like she even admits in a few of her podcast episodes that had she not changed her branding and become more true to who she was and more true to who she wanted to be attracting as customers, her shop probably wouldn't exist anymore. Yeah. Right? And so that kind of just shows you the importance when you're building a brand of really nailing the customer avatar correctly, because you don't want to be the competitive or the second guy to the platform with your product that somebody else already has. You want to put a little bit of a different spin on it, whether it's a different spin on your customer service, the product line itself, or just the attitude and the vibe of the brand, right? That's what makes certain brands thrive and other ones fail.
Yeah, and then also too, like just if you can relate to the brand a lot more, it's kind of like it's more enjoyable too as well when you're doing like you're having fun with your business. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Let's see. We didn't have any questions. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are lost. Like what?
They're like branding. What branding? Merch show.
Yeah, but I mean, I think this is something that me and RJ talk about all the time, right? Like, there's just so many other ways to make money than just merch by Amazon. So we want people to start realizing like there's a whole other world besides just Amazon where you can do stuff on e-commerce.
Absolutely, and you can still automate it in the same way. Like you've got the plugins for Printful and T-Launch and Shirtly and a variety of other places. And, you know, they're going to produce the items for you, your own designs and whatever. And it's like, if you can be running a successful merch and a successful Etsy and a successful Shopify, like, why wouldn't you, right? Like, just way more money coming in from different angles. Sure, there's a learning curve and sure, there's some testing and whatnot, but like, it's a curve for a reason. Once you get up the curve, you know what you're doing, and you can rinse and repeat, and then just hit different niches with all of that stuff, right? So like,
yeah, exactly.
I think it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's basically leveling up your business, right? Like, there's no reason that you should just settle for this one little piece.
And I think, honestly, a lot of the times, too, in terms of the platform, is like, from what I understand, like, Jay's pretty into merch, and we have this conversation all the time, because what Jay's awesome at, sometimes I suck at, and vice versa. So, like, we kind of make a good team that way. We're like, I'm like, oh, Jay, I can't do this. Like, what is this? And then he's like, oh, this, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure you probably had those conversations, too, with Jay D'Souza. But
yeah, exactly.
Truthfully, like, what I find a lot of the time is it's like, if you're on a platform and that platform changes, like I heard from Jay that like merch kind of tanked a little bit or changed some things about the algorithm. And then like a lot of people who had maybe quit their job or like whatever were making like 10 grand a month, went from making like 10 grand to like $1 grand. And we're like, fuck, what do I do? Right? Because like, what am I going to do for money? Yeah. Right? And that's the thing. Like if you're building your house in somebody else's platform and they're in control of like who sees your products, who doesn't, you know what I mean? Yep. Or like a little algorithm tweak like that can really like start to make your income fluctuate. It's way smarter in terms of a business strategy to have some things elsewhere, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you're not going to put all of your eggs in that basket. And then when somebody snatches the basket, you're like, oh shit, I have nothing else to do. So it's like if you have a successful like Shopify or an Etsy, then if something goes down over here, chances are, like, if you spent the time learning the strategies, you can ramp something else up over here while you figure out what's going on with that first thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, but so basically, yeah, it's always good to just have like multiple streams of income, and I think it's very important just to kind of just branch off. Like once you see like you're at a certain level with merch or just any type of business, if you can just figure something else out to get another stream of income coming in, that'd be just always good because you're winning regardless. So
exactly, and you'll keep winning too because you taught yourself the strategies, right?
Yeah, it's all about growing. That's why I've been cutting out a lot of my friends around me, like just cutting them out because I'm just trying to grow as an individual and just with everything else too, just trying to make everything grow. And like same thing with Matt. Like me and Matt, we conversate every single day and we're all about growing and trying to make things better and just make things much easier for everyone. So
yeah, and I feel like your circle does change because that was something I can relate to 100%. It's like I still have the friends that have no idea about digital marketing and like think I'm crazy when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this new shop. Like I launched a shop like last Christmas called Cushion the Blow that was all like decor pillows with swear words on them or like funny sayings like this one, right? Like so. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then so like you could pick the back so that it matches your room. So if you see in my here, I got my purple accent walls, my purple pillow on the back, my By Felicia on the front, and like whatever, right? So I launched this like last year just on a whim because I was like, I really want some really like stupid pillows that say swear words on them. And you can't really find that. Like I had one that said what the actual fuck, because that's something I say all the time. And I was like, I want a pillow with that on it, but like maybe not for every day. I want to be able to turn it around so it looks like a normal pillow. But when I want to say what I want to say, I want to turn it back around. You know what I mean? And it's like, you'll grow from that. But like some people just, you know, you kind of just grow away from them, right? Because like they don't understand. They're not interested in learning something new. And interestingly enough, like I was actually reading a few studies because I'm kind of a geek like this. And they say that like only 10% of the planet actually spends any time more than 2 months on personal development. But if you look at like the rising trends of like entrepreneurship and just kind of the ease with which you can own your own business now, I feel like part of your success as an entrepreneur or as a even digital marketer is largely driven by that personal development. Like how hard are you willing to work? You know what I mean? Like how much time are you going to invest in learning the skills and being a better person? Yeah. Right? Like being a smarter person, being a person who helps other people and starts conversations and learns from other people versus being the person who sits at home and like gets frustrated when something's not working and then just goes, fuck it, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. Or the person that goes into a Facebook group and just wants all the answers right away handed to them. Right. Like you learn so much more by just going out there and learning this stuff and fucking up and getting pissed off because you don't understand something right away and then really working through it and understanding it totally than having somebody go in there and just hand you the answer.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the thing, because there is no magic bullet. That's really what it comes down to. It's like I could give somebody the answers 15 times over, but that if they don't have the skills and the knowledge required to apply what I'm telling them, they're not going to be successful. You know what I mean? If they don't have an understanding of the concepts or the strategies to know when to pivot, when to try a Facebook ad over, you know, a Pinterest ad or something like that, because their audience is over here instead of over there, like you're just basically wasting your own time. There's no like get rich quick scheme on any of these kinds of businesses, right? Like you're gonna have to get your hands dirty. You have to get in there. You have to know what you're talking about, you know, and know what you're doing. And you have to be able to apply a bunch of different strategies, because sometimes one strategy that works really well for a really long time just stops working. It just stops, you know, like maybe the market gets flooded with people doing the exact same thing and it's not working that well anymore. Like these people who are doing the whole free plus shipping on their Shopify sites, or like I see it constantly complaining about, oh, I did a free plus shipping. I spent $300. I didn't get one sale, but I got lots of traffic. What's wrong? Well, people have been doing free plus shipping for the last 5 years. People get it now. Like they know it's not free. Like, they know, oh, maybe I should just go check out like DHgate or like AliExpress to see where this guy's getting this. And I buy it myself for $5. You know what I mean? Like, you got to get more creative with your strategy.
Right.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. Well, we're good right there.
I think that, I think that people need to go back and watch this and really pay attention to it, because like Dionne, I think overwhelmed some people in the audience. The people probably got there's a little bit more than they're used to, but that's a good thing. Like this is how you grow. This is how you stretch your wings. One of the things that I do want to mention is if you want to have this all broken down for Etsy in a little bit more of a bite-sized chunk that's a little bit easier to take in, Dionne and Jay D'Souza have an amazing course on Etsy. They call it the Crash Course for Etsy. It's literally A to Z, like starting at the very beginning and taking you all the way through your shop, going through all these steps in like little bite-sized bits. So it's not like a long period of time, like it's step by step by step. It's really, really good. Like I'm actually using it to train one of my VAs. I've gone through it. I've turned a couple of my friends on it. They love it too. So I just can't say enough like how good it actually is.
Okay, so then we'll put that in the description down below after this video if you guys are interested in the course. It's a course, right? Correct?
Yes. Yeah, it is a course. It's a self-driven course, and we do have a private Facebook group where you can come and ask questions. Surprisingly, as you've seen from me, I like to explain things in detail. So we haven't had very many questions. Like I've been asking, I'm like, feedback, guys, feedback. They're like, it's awesome. And I'm like, no questions? They're like, no questions. But are you guys working on stuff? Show me what you're working on. And they're like, yeah, here's my thing. And I'm like, okay, you got it. Right? But
someone commented in the chat. They're like, I can't ask the questions. She's answering all my questions as I'm trying to write them.
I get that a lot. So I used to get so paranoid about that because I'd be like answering all these questions or like on a live like this. And then I'd be like, questions. And there'd be like, no questions. I'd be like, nobody's watching this. Like, right? Yeah. And then afterwards, I'd start getting like, you know, you answered the question that I was just about to ask. The next, you know what I mean? So I started to feel a lot more calm and like good about it. But yeah, for the Etsy Crash Course, it's actually broken out into little bite-sized chunks, like Matt said. So like some of the chunks are like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So if you only have half an hour, we try to design it so that like if you had half an hour and you wanted to learn a specific thing, you can kind of jump around in different areas and learn that specific thing. And then there's how-tos where like it's literally I am showing you, like I'm a little tiny box on your screen so you can still see me. But on the screen, I'm showing you like point and click. This is how you do this. This is where you put this. This is how you create this. This is how you figure out what your branding should be, all of that kind of stuff. So I try to kind of just make it as comprehensive as possible because I know, you know, I talk a lot. So I didn't want it just to be like me being a talking head, being like, hey, guys. and now we're gonna talk about the strategy. I wanted to show you how to do it too, and give you some examples. And even as part of the Etsy course, if you're kind of wanting to learn a bit more about branding, there's a whole little subject area about branding where I give you a free template to create like a brand board inside of the Etsy course, so that you can pick your brand colors, your fonts, and you just kind of have an inspirational like mood board in a sense in front of you to keep you focused on like the style that you're going for and the audience that you're targeting. So yeah, like I think it's a pretty rad course. I'm probably biased because I made it, but like
I like seriously no, like, and like every person I've talked to, and I have some friends behind the scenes that we talk a lot, and I was talking about this course, like, just seriously, it's the best course I've seen for Etsy. It's the best starting point for Etsy if you're really serious and you want to move into it. Like, I can't recommend it highly. Like, you know, my wife and I are going through the course again, and we're experienced. We've been on Etsy for a while, but it's more like, okay, I want to make sure that every little advantage I can have when I'm doing my Etsy store and getting it set up and doing all this stuff is the right thing, right? Like, I don't want to have to go back and redo this work, and I want to make sure that my stuff is actually showing up, it's done properly, all of that stuff. Like, it's fucking fantastic. So, yeah. You know, if you can't tell that I like the course.
And honestly, my Etsy store, it sucks. But I'm going to tell you this right now. The most simplest shit sells. The simplest stuff. And it's stupid. I'm like, this is the #1 shirt of the month over here on Etsy. Like, this guy sold this shirt like 60 times. And it's so simple. I'm just like pissed off over here overthinking, trying to add like 20 colors in a design and trying to make it the best popping design. And this guy has just a simple all white text and he's killing it with that.
Well, that's the thing. Like, sometimes you can overthink it, and that's I think I say even in the course, like, don't overthink it. Just, you know, start with a minimum viable product, put some things out there, see what happens, and then, you know, you very quickly start to see, okay, I'm getting views and favorites on these things. I should rinse and repeat, or just like expand that category of stuff because that's what's bringing people to my shop. You know, and then it becomes really easy to grow. And it's like, it's a few key things on Etsy that really, really help transform whether you're actually going to be doing like, you know, monthly sales of upwards of $4,000 and $5,000 versus like a couple $100, right? So yeah. All
right. Well, that's it. That'll do it right there. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you everyone for watching, tuning in. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and share it. And then also too, I'm going to put the link down below to the course. And then we also have the June research too as well available for everybody. So, yep.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. You should go back and just immediately start watching this all over again. Like, you're going to learn some stuff. So every time I talk to Dionne, I learn shit. So I like it.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Okay. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.